I think I have a problem when any religion or spiritual philosophy is used or weaponized to be the antithesis of what the primary teachings of that thing is. So again, if you're using Stoicism, if you're Andrew Tate and you're quoting Marcus Aurelius to make, young boys into monsters, like I'm not on board with that. If you're, you have an AI picture of Marcus Aurelius looking super jacked, and then that draws someone in, and then you're teaching them this community mindedness of Stoicism, then I don't have a problem with that. So it's just been fascinating to me. This is the first time where I'm like, oh, hey, this is the thing I grew up with, and now it has this resonance that I didn't expect, and I think it's. I thought it was interesting when JD Vance tried to explain essentially the opposite of
the Bible.
That you have this
empathy
order of people that you care about,
right.
and that empathy is somehow a
the
weakness.
Enemy.
And like you could argue that the whole religious tradition is a technology designed to inculcate people with empathy because their tendency is to not have it. And I dislike when someone is using their considerable rhetorical and intellectual powers.
Well, what's fascinating about Catholicism is the last couple of popes have been very quote unquote progressive, at least in terms of like serving the poor, working with the poor, easing up of rules to be more allowing, less judgmental,
totally
more accepting, even if like laws aren't specifically changing per se.
Yeah.
But that doesn't seem to have much effect on the worshipers in the way that it used to.
Yeah.
I think the worshipers used to be kind of more in the flow with where the Pope was leading the church. And if the Pope was kind of pro-Nazi, the congregation would be a little pro-Nazi. If it was a little bit more, rigorous and by the book, then the congregation would be as well.
But I think this is actually partly why there is a resurgence in some of these philosophical traditions is that it's hard to, I think the reason that people don't follow the moral leadership of the Catholic Church is because the moral leadership of the Catholic Church, a couple of recent progressive popes notwithstanding, has been heinous to say the least, right? They completely neglected any moral leadership on, in one of the most egregious abuses of people in human history, right? Like so as these institutions have failed repeatedly to live up to their ethos and their ideals, and I think you have to include, government and presidents in this too. What do you do if you're a young person and you look around and you don't really see any institutions or any institutional leaders who are exemplars of what they purport to be about? I think you end up going, well, let's throw out all this and let's go back a little bit further until we find something. And there's kind of a freshness in something old. I just think there's not a lot of places that if you're, and I think this is why it's particularly acute for young men and why maybe, unfortunately, they are looking too much to comedians on podcasts. Do you know what I mean?
Hey,
is like
I'm the least influential comedian on a podcast. I'll put it that way.
All of us are the least influential podcast in comparison to a few, right?
Yeah.
But like, who is speaking to them about these things? Like, school doesn't seem to think that that's its job. Most of them are not religious. The sort of civic institutions are, weak at best. And so there is this kind of vacuum that I do think some sort of grifters and grifters are intentionally filling, and then other people are unintentionally filling it. But there does seem to be a vacuum that needs to be filled. Viktor Frankl would call it an existential vacuum. And I think that's what most people wake up and experience.
The Soul Boom Podcast. Subscribe now on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever else you get your stupid podcasts.